So although I don't go line by line, I am trying to cover the major topics that are in the Pratyaksha Pariccheda. So yada vidya vilasena bhuta bhautika sitteha tam nomi paramatmanam sachidananda vigraham. So we were explaining the interpretation of the major text Tattvamasi and also the secular example Soyam Devadattaha, which are interpreted on the basis of the secondary significative power Jahad Ajahal Lakshana. So now, and that is an example of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. Tattvamasi is an example of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. It is Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam, wherein the words are known to express or convey their secondary meaning, and the secondary meaning, where the secondary meaning is conveyed, where the primary meaning happens to be a complex sense, and in that complex sense, the adjectival features are omitted or left out, and a part of the primary meaning is secondarily conveyed. So, samsarga anavagahi means that cognition wherein the visheshana samsarga or the relation of the adjectival elements do not manifest. Such a cognition is called nirvikalpaka or indeterminate perception. This is what we have been explaining. Now, this Tattvamasi, the major text of the Upanishads, is being instructed by the preceptor to the disciple. So, whenever a sentence is uttered and you have the knowledge of a sentence, the speaker speaks and the hearer hears the sentence. Now, what will be the nature of the cognition when something is uttered and you are hearing and you have the knowledge of the sentences? When I am speaking, you are able to hear, immediately you are able to correlate the meanings of the individual words constituting the sentence, and as and when I talk, you are able to grasp the meaning of it and you have the cognition, and that is called Shabda Jnana. The knowledge which arises from Shabda is called Shabda Jnana or verbal cognition. So, when sentences are uttered, you are able to first arrive at the isolated word meanings constituting a sentence, and all these happen in a fraction of a second. So, the very nature of epistemology is such that whatever has taken place, you perceive a pot, you have the inferential cognition of fire in a mountain, you have the knowledge of analogy, upamana, upamiti jnana, and you have the knowledge of sentences. All these happen. So it is the function of the logic to go backwards and analyze how it has arisen. Nobody ever bothers to think of, because we are all here engaged in such an inquiry, how we have arrived at this such knowledge, all these. But there are so many people, laymen, they do not even think how we are able to hear, how we are able to understand the sentences that are being uttered by anyone. So this is the function of the logic, that it goes backwards to analyze how this knowledge has arisen. So that is precisely what we are concerned and what we are doing also now. That is the exercise in which we are engaged now. So the sentences, when they are uttered, the knowledge which you arrive at on hearing the sentences is known as shabda jnana or verbal cognition. Now when we are speaking of the major text of the Upanishad Tattvamasi, which is being instructed by a teacher to the disciple, Tattvamasi being, because it partakes of the nature of a sentence, the knowledge which the disciple arrives at from such a sentence has to be verbal in nature, isn't it? Tattvamasi, the teacher instructs the disciple, you are that. Then the knowledge which he arrives at has to be termed shabda jnana or verbal cognition, isn't it? When sentences are uttered and you have the knowledge of the sentences, and you correlate the meanings of the words in a sentence, and you have the sentential sense, and it is called vakyartha jnana or shabda jnana. After all, a sentence is a group of words. So at least there must be two words in a sentence in order to be called a sentence. Now in the present case, we have three words: tat, tvam, and asi. So these three words which constitute a sentence, you know the meaning of the word tat, you know the meaning of the word tvam, and you are that. And you realize that you are that. So now, normally speaking, the cognition or the knowledge which you have arrived at on hearing this sentence has to be verbal in nature. So it should be called, or it should be given the name verbal cognition. But the Advaitins, notably the Vivarana school, are very assertive in saying that even sentences could give rise to valid perceptual knowledge. So this is uh, something unique to the Advaitins, and notably the Vivarana school. They say that even sentences can give rise to valid perceptual knowledge. Normally, sentences are supposed to give rise only to Shabda Jnana or verbal knowledge. But here is an instance, a pramana, that is Shabda pramana, results in Pratyaksha prama. Or in other words, verbal testimony results in valid perceptual knowledge. There is cause-effect relation between two pramanas, that is Pratyaksha pramana can give rise to Pratyaksha prama, Upamana can give rise to Upamiti, Anumana can give rise to Anumiti. Likewise, Shabda Jnana, or the knowledge of the words, or knowledge of the words, can give rise to Shabda Jnana. This is how we have known. But here is a deviation of that Shabda Pramana gives rise to Pratyaksha Prama, or Shabda Pramana is verbal testimony. It results in valid perceptual knowledge. Where have we noticed this? This is we notice it in the case of Tattvamasi Mahavakya when it is instructed. Tattvamasi Mahavakya, it is a Vakya, it is a sentence. Sentence should give rise to only valid verbal cognition. So, but the Advaitins say that it gives rise to Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, because each succeeding line provides a link. The preceding line, it provides a link with the successive line in Vedanta Paribhasa. That is why he uses the term Tattvamasi Ityadi Vakyajanyam Jnanam. So Nirvikalpakam tu Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam Yata Soyam Devadattaha Tattvamasi Ityadi Vakyajanyam Jnanam. When we are speaking about Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, where does the question of Vakyajanyam Jnanam arise? But he boldly says, here is an instance of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha which arises from Vakya or sentences. So Vakyajanyam Jnanam, it is Nirvikalpaka or indeterminate in nature. Immediately, the opponent raises the objection, Nanu Shabdam idam Jnanam. See, we have been taught in Tarka Sangraha that verbal cognition or valid knowledge of words constituting a sentence can result only in verbal cognition or Shabda Jnana. How is it that you say that Pratyaksha Prama, that Shabda Jnana results in Pratyaksha Prama or valid perceptual knowledge? And not only that, the opponent somewhat he's a kind of disturbed mind, so he has been entertaining this doubt for long. Although the Advaitin now and then emphasizes the fact that a cognition, in order to be called cognition, need not necessarily arise from an indriya or sense organ. because that was what we were discussing yesterday. Nahi indriyajanyatvam jnanasya pratyakshatve tantram. In order that a cognition may be called, may be viewed as perceptual in nature, the opponent has been entertaining this doubt that it must arise from a sense organ. That is the question which he put yesterday. Manojan, mind is not, if mind is not a sense organ, how are we to admit the resultant cognition as perceptual in nature? For that, the Advaitins gave the answer that in order that a cognition may be called, termed perceptual in nature, it need not arise from any indriya or sense organ. We have been explaining Jnanagata Pratyaksha, Vishayagata Pratyaksha, everything. Now the Purva Pakshin, again, perhaps he has forgotten what the Advaitin has taught. So he is putting the very same question. Nanu Shabdam Idam Jnanam. The sentence Tatvamasi can give rise or can result only in verbal cognition. How dare do you say that it results in Pratyaksha Prama? That is, you say it is a Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. The knowledge of the sentence Tatvamasi results in Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, or the perceptual knowledge of the supreme identity, of the supreme self with the inner self. How can you say so? Because it is Shabda Jnana, Shabdam Idam Jnanam. And why? It cannot be perceptual in nature. Why? Indriya Ajanyatva. It does not arise from any sense organ. It is a knowledge which has arisen from sentence. How could you say that it is Pratyaksha? Indriya Ajanyatva. He again impresses upon the fact that it is not Indriya Janya. The opponent is somewhat disturbed and he is entertaining the very same doubt because it does not arise from any sense organ. It cannot be perceptual in nature. This is the question posed by the opponent. Now the Advaitin, he reminds the opponent about the fact that already I have taught you that nahi indriya janyatvam pratyakshatve tantram. Please do not put the same question again. This is the final time I am going to instruct you. I will never entertain your doubt of this kind hereafter. So nahi indriya janyatvam. He is a little calm now. But if he is going to put the same question, the Advaitin will not answer. So he says, nahi indriya janyatvam jnanasya pratyakshatve tantram. It is not a hard and fast rule that a knowledge, in order to be perceptual, it should arise from a sense organ. I have taught you, and nahi indriya janyat dushitatvat, he says. I have already spoken about this in length. So dushitatvat. Then what? Kintu योग्य वर्तमान विषयावच्छिन्न चैतन्य विषयकत्वे सति प्रमाण चैतन्यस्य विषय चैतन्य अभिन्नत्वम. That is what we have been explaining. While explaining Jnanagata Pratyaksha, we said the identity of Pramana Chaitanya with Vishaya Chaitanya. May I kindly recall that in the case of Pramana Chaitanya and Vishaya Chaitanya, we also gave the adjectives for Vishaya, that it should be Yogya and Vartamana Vishaya. The Vishaya Chaitanya, the Vishaya should also be present. It should relate to the present time, and not only that, it must have the capacity or the fitness to come within the range of perception. To ward off Ativyapti, in the case of Sukha Smriti, we included present time Vartamana, and to ward off Ativyapti in the case of Dharma and Adharma, we introduced the term Yogya. So Yogya Vartamana Vishayavachinna Chaitanyasya Pramana Chaitanya Abhedaha. This is what we gave as the criterion for perceptuality of knowledge. Now the Advaitin reminds the opponent of this fact that I have already explained. This is the criterion for perceptuality of knowledge. Now, he explains this once again. In the case of Soyam Devadatta, I have the cognition that he is that Devadatta. He is in front of me. Now what happens? I am able to have Soyam Devadatta, or I am instructing somebody. Oh, don't you remember? He is that same Devadatta whom we met yesterday. Even if the other person is not able to recollect, I am fairly, um, I have fairly good memory. I am able to recollect him, and I instruct the other person that he is the same Devadatta. So when I say Soyam Devadatta, he is the same Devadatta whom we met yesterday, then what happens here? On hearing this sentence, my friend, Dr. Shantakumari, she has forgotten, and I tell her, oh, he is the same person whom we met at Pondicherry. Don't you remember? Immediately, what happens? She hears this sentence, so I am Devadatta. Now, on hearing this sentence, and she is seeing the person Devadatta in front of her, isn't it? So now, on hearing this sentence, what happens is her sense organ, that is the sense of her mind, goes out through the sense organ, that is the sense of sight. It reaches the place where Devadatta is present, assumes modification in the form of Devadatta. All this process which we have explained in the same way as we have the cognition of pot. Devadatta is the object here. Just as the pot is the object, Devadatta is the object. So the consciousness conditioned by the object Devadatta is the Vishaya Chaitanya, and the sense of mind goes out through the sense of sight, reaches the place where Devadatta is standing. So the object conditioned consciousness and the consciousness conditioned by the mental state in the form of Devadatta, these two have become identical, and Dr. Shantakumari has the cognition that he is Devadatta. Now, this is the process, this has to take place in all cases of perception of objects. And please bear in mind, whenever there is perceptuality of object, it has to be necessarily associated with perceptuality of knowledge also. If you perceive the object, then if you have the knowledge, if you perceive the object, if you are able to visualize or perceive the object, then you must have the knowledge of the object. Either it can be determinate or indeterminate, whatever be the case, but you will have the knowledge of the object. But contrarily, in the case of mediate knowledge of fire in a mountain, you have the knowledge of fire in the mountain because you see smoke in the mountain. Immediately you recollect the invariable relation of smoke to fire, and then you have paramarsha, Vanivyapya Dhumavanayam Parvataha. This mountain has fire which is invariably related to smoke, this mountain has fire which is invariably related to fire. From this there arises Parvato Vanni, mountain is fiery. Now you have the knowledge of fire, but you do not have the knowledge of the object fire, because the object fire is not in direct contact with your sense organ. So I once again emphasize upon the fact that wherever there is perceptuality of object, it has to be necessarily associated with perceptuality of knowledge too. Whereas there are instances, that is the cases of mediate knowledge, in such cases you have perceptuality of knowledge but not of object. So now in the present case, you have Devadatta, knowledge of Devadatta. This is that Devadatta, you have knowledge. Now what happens? The Advaitins say, I have instructed Dr. Shantakumari that this is Devadatta. So immediately she sees Devadatta and she remembers the sentence uttered by me. So it has to be Shabda Jnana or verbal cognition only. Now the Advaitins say, the sentences normally tend to give rise only to verbal cognition, no doubt. But if the sentences relate to an object which is directly in front of you, then even sentences can give rise to perceptual knowledge. That is the condition posed by the Advaitin. Sentences left to themselves, normally speaking, sentences can give rise only to mediate knowledge. Supposing I am saying, Nadyas tire panchapalani santi. There are five trees which exist on the bank of the rivers. You have the knowledge, you are able to conceive that there are five trees on the banks of the rivers. This is only immediate knowledge. But the very same sentence, if it is uttered, or if it's relate to a fact, if it relates to a fact or an object which is directly in front of you, then even such sentences can give rise to perceptual knowledge. So this is the conditional clause which he puts. Shabda jnanam, tattvamasi ityadi. Sannikrishta vishaye shabdadapi aparoksha jnana abhyupagamat. Sannikrishta vishaye means, Sannikrishta means the object which is directly in front of you. If the sentences convey an object or relate to an object which is directly in front of you or which is directly in contact with the sense organs, then sentences which normally can give rise to immediate knowledge can give rise to immediate knowledge under this condition. Is it clear? So, Sannikrishta Vishaye, Shabdadapi Aparoksha Jnana Abhyupagamat. We, the Advaitins, the Vivarana school, the followers of the Vivarana, we do admit or we subscribe to the view that sentences normally which can give rise only to mediate knowledge can be elevated to the status of producing or generating perceptual knowledge, provided it relates to a fact or it conveys an object which is directly in front of you. This is the clause he has added. Now, what happens in the present case? I am uttering a sentence about Devadatta who is directly in front of me. So, when I utter the sentence, so am Devadatta, she is able to see Devadatta in front of her. Okay, oh, this is that Devadatta. She has the knowledge of Devadatta. It is direct perceptual knowledge. So the sentence has given rise to direct perceptual knowledge. Now, if this could be the case with Devadatta, who is just standing in front of me, what to speak of Tattvamasi, which speaks of an object which is most immediate to you, because it relates to a fact that you are that Brahman, you are identical with that supreme self. The inner self is referred to by the term you. So when it speaks of the identity between that supreme self with your own inner self, the inner self is even more immediate than Devadatta, who is at least standing some 5 steps ahead of you. So which relates to the most immediate object, it has to be perceptual in nature. And for this, the Advaitins, the normally quoted story is Dashamastomasi. 10 travelers are passing and they had to cross a river, and one traveler, he started counting whether all of them have crossed the river, and excluding himself, without counting himself, he started counting 9 in number, and without counting himself, he started crying that the 10th man is lost. And at passerby, he asked why he is crying. He said, no, we have lost. 10 of us came and one is lost while crossing. Then he asked him to count once again. He counted 9 without counting himself. Then the passerby says, he says, you are the 10th man. Hello, sir, you have forgotten yourself. You are the 10th man. You are lost in counting. You have forgotten yourself. You are the 10th man. Immediately, he realizes that he is the 10th man. You see, this is what all of us are entangled in samsara, that we have forgotten ourselves. That is why the Advaitins, what is the concept of moksha? He says, anartha nivrittihi, the concept of moksha, Brahma bhavascha mokshaha, anartha nivrittischa. That is to remain as Brahman. This constitutes liberation. And to remain as Brahman, how could you remain as Brahman? Characterized by the removal of avidya. Now, are we all not Brahman by ourselves? Yes, we are. But alas, we have forgotten our true nature. So somebody has to instruct us that we are that Brahman. So can that be obliterated at all? Because I know I am Brahman, but you are caught in the trammels of samsara or transmigration. So somebody has to instruct you. So it is a kind of praptasyeva praptihi. You are already Brahman, and you are now realizing that you have become Brahman. Nobody denies the fact that you are Brahman, but unfortunately, you think that you are not Brahman. So, when you are taught Brahman, that you realize that you have become Brahman, but it is praptasya praptihi and parihritasya pariharaha. There is no snake in the rope at all. Is there a snake? Just because we have looked at a rope as snake, does the snake exist there? We give all sorts of, we engage ourselves in all sorts of discussion, asatkyadi, atmakyadi, everything. But the fact remains to be that there is no snake there at all. We try to give some kind of explanation why the rope appeared as snake. But in reality, does the snake exist there? No. So we are trying to obliterate something which has already been obliterated, which does not at all exist there. So parihritasya pariharaha. So only if the Shankara says in his Bhashya, yatra yadadhyastaha, rope is snake is superimposed upon rope, and silver is superimposed upon shell. Yatra yad adhyastaha tat kritena. He gives two examples. For guna one example and dosha another example. Tat kritena gunena doshena va anumatrena api sanasambhadyate. Not even an iota of it is present. Just because Madam Revathy is teaching Vedanta and she has been giving this as an example, why should I not be present here? Silver will not exist there. Anumatrena api. Even for a while, it will not get associated with silver shell, or snake will not get associated with rope. So, yatra yad adhyastaha tatkritena gunena doshena va anumatrena api sanasambhadyate. So, praptasya praptihi. Everyone is in the nature of Brahman, but unfortunately, we have lost sight of identity with our inner nature. So, that has to be instructed. It is a kind of praptasya praptihi and parihritasya pariharaha. So for this, the usual example that is given is kantagata vismrita kanakamala nyayena. You are having the mala on your neck and you are searching for it. Normally that happens. People wear the glasses and they will be searching for the glasses. Kantagata vismrita kanakamala nyayena. Somebody instructs, oh, it is on your neck. No? Then you feel as if you have attained it now, but it is already there. Is it clear? So, Tattvamasi Mahavakya, when it is being instructed, what happens is you are having the perceptual knowledge of the object even from sentences, because it relates to the self, the identity of the supreme self with the inner self, which is most immediate. So, Shabdamidam. So, the maxim is the rule is framed by the Vivarana school is Sannikrishta Vishaye. When the sentences relate to an object, which is most immediate. Sannikrishta Vishaya means which is most immediate. It can give rise to perceptual knowledge. But the Bhamati school does not subscribe to this view, because sentences can give rise only to mediate knowledge. For Bhamati Kara, that is Vachaspati Mishra, I was telling yesterday that mind is a sense organ. So it is only from mind that knowledge of Brahman could arise, because Manasaiva Anudrashtavyam. Because for both the views, Upanishads are so flexible. We have sanction for both the views. So he says Manasaiva Anudrashtavyam. But Vachaspati Mishra says Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasa Saha. Words fail to comprehend Brahman. So Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasa Saha. So this Aprapya Manasa Saha, he says, Apakko Manas cannot reach that Brahman. Manasaiva Anudrashtavyam. On the other hand, the Shruti text Manasaiva Anudrashtavyam confirms the view that Brahman knowledge, Brahman could be known only through mind. So we have such sets of Upanishadic texts in favor of both Vivarana as well as Bhamati. So now then which one? Manasaiva Anudrashtavyam. This is the Shruti text which speaks of mind as the instrument of the knowledge of Brahman, whereas yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha is in favor of Vivarana school. He says yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. He says that mind cannot comprehend Brahman. So for that, Vachaspati Mishra says that mind can comprehend, but when it says aprapya manasa saha, the mind it should be prefixed with an adjective. Apakko manas cannot comprehend. Yeah, apakko manas means mind which is not purified. That cannot comprehend. So that is the content of that Upanishadic text. Now, hmm. Hmm. Yeah, we have both the views. That is what I say, yaya bhavet pumsam vyutpatti pratyagatmani. We have got so many differences, doctrinal differences. Whatever appeals to your mind, no, you are given so many choices in Advaita. One need not subscribe to one view. If you want to read Vivarana, okay. So on the dining table, there are so many, buffet. You can choose. So now, a pertinent question the Purapakshin raises. Sir, all this is okay. Shabda Jnana, it gives rise to valid perceptual knowledge. Now, I have a basic doubt in me that you said Samsarga Anavagahi means in Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, the Samsarga or the relation of the adjectival features do not manifest. That is how we have explained Nirvikalpaka, isn't it? Now, Tattvamasi is a sentence. A sentence is normally constituted of individual words, isn't it? At least there must be two words in order to be called a sentence. So here we have got three words. So words constitute a sentence. Is it clear? So pada samuhaha vakyam. This is what the Nayayika says. Pada samuhaha vakyam. Group of words constitute a sentence. Now, if I utter the word gauhu, a cow, you will have the knowledge of a cow. Suppose I utter the sentence Gam anaya, bring the cow. Immediately, you have the knowledge of the sentence, and immediately you go and bring the object, bring the animal cow. Because you know the word meaning of the word bring and also cow, and you relate these two. First, whenever you hear a sentence, you have the knowledge of the isolated word, meanings of the isolated words. That is, bring, you will have the knowledge of the meaning, the knowledge of that word, and also the meaning of the word cow. Now, this isolated word meanings, what happens? They join together because the words are uttered in a sequence. I don't utter the word bring, and after half an hour, I don't utter the word cow. Then you cannot have, there must be juxtaposition of words. Is it clear? Because I write a sentence, one word in one page, and another word in another page, another word in another page. How are you to comprehend the sentential sense? It is impossible. So there must be sannidhi or juxtaposition or asakti. So words are juxtaposed to each other. So I utter the word, I utter the sentence, bring the cow. Now, you are able to immediately recollect the word meanings, bring of the act of bringing, and also the animal cow. And you relate these two meanings together. You combine these two meanings together and you are able to arrive at the sentential sense and you act accordingly. Now, what happens while arriving at the sentential sense? Are we not able to comprehend the relation among the word meanings in a sentence? Yes. If we do not get or understand the relation among the word meanings, one is not prompted to carry on the activity. Suppose I ask you to bring the cow. You know only the meaning of the word cow. You do not know what is meant by the act of bringing. You will be just sitting. Or you know bringing, Cow you have not seen earlier. So then also you will be sitting. Now, when will you be prompted towards this activity? Only if you know the meanings of the words in a sentence, and only if you could relate these word meanings in a sentence, then you are prompted to act, isn't it? So, any sentence for that matter must relate to the relation among the word meanings. So that then only you can arrive at the sentential sense. So the opponent raises an objection. Sir, I have been listening to the story that Tattvamasi Mahavakya can generate perceptual knowledge, and you have convinced me of the fact that Sannikrishta Vishaya Shabdadapi Aparoksha Jnana Abhyupagamat, when the sentence conveys a meaning which is related to the object which is directly in front of you, it can give rise to perceptual knowledge. All this is okay. But I have a basic doubt lingering in me. That is, it is a vakya. It is a vakya. Tattvamasi is a vakya. Now, and you have labeled it as nirvikalpaka pratyaksha. The knowledge or the knowledge which I arrive at from Tattvamasi Mahavakya is nirvikalpaka pratyaksha, isn't it? Now, okay, you say that sentences can give rise to nirvikalpaka pratyaksha, but are we not violating the rule that in a sentence, the sentence should convey the meanings among the isolated words? So, Vakyajanya Jnane Padartha Samsargavatvam Tantram. If I have to understand the sentence, should I not understand the relation among the words in a sentence? So, Tat Tvam Asi. If I have to arrive at the meaning, I am that, you are that, then should there not be a relation among with Tat, Tvam and Asi? So there should be relation among these three words. Only then I can claim myself to have arrived at the sentential sense. So, in any kind of verbal cognition, there is relation among word meanings, isn't it? So, Vakyajanya Jnanasya Padartha Samsarga Avagahitaya. So, in the case of Tattvamasi also, we have to admit the fact that the relation among the word Tat, Tvam and Asi, all these three, has been comprehended by us. Otherwise, I cannot claim myself to have comprehended the sentential sense, isn't it? So, Padartha Samsarga, is it not manifest in the sentence? Yes. So, how can you say Samsarga? You have said Samsarga Anavaga, and this is an instance of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, indeterminate perception. Please bear that in mind. It is an instance of indeterminate perception. But at the same time, it is a sentence. A sentence must necessarily relate to the meanings among the words. So, it is a Vakyartha Jnana. Although you label it as Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, yet it must relate to the meanings among the words Tat, Tvam and Asi. So, how can you call it as Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha? Because you have given the definition of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha as Samsarga Anavagahi Jnanam. But here there is Samsarga or relation among the word meanings. Of course, the Advaitins have said Samsarga, by Samsarga he means the relation of adjectival features. But the opponent is somewhat ignorant and he puts the question, Samsarga, there is Padartha Samsarga, at least some Samsarga is there. If not the adjectival element, there is some Samsarga, that is relation among the word meanings that is manifested in Vakya, in a sentence. So how can you call it as Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha? Do you get the question? Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, you label the sentence Tattvamasi as Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. Now, in order to be called as Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, identity, that is Tattvamasi, identical sense, what is the criterion we have fixed? We have stated that it should not comprehend any kind of samsarga or relation whatsoever. But this is an instance where at least the relation or samsarga among the word meanings are manifested in it. So how are we to call this as an instance of indeterminate cognition or nirvikalpaka pratyaksha? So the Advaitins say, again he says, Vakyajanya jnana vishayatve na padartha samsarga. When a direct question is put, this is a kind of, what do you call as, in Shastric parlance, you call it as pratibandhi. He's not giving a direct answer. On the other hand, he gives an indirect answer from which we have to deduce the answer. He says, Vakyajanya jnana vishayatve na padartha samsarga vatvam tantram. In order to comprehend a sentence, or in order to have sentence sense, relation among the word meanings, of course, is a criterion, but that is not the only criterion. Relation among the word meanings alone can give rise to sentence sense, no doubt. So, Vakyajanya jnana vishayatve na padartha samsargavatvam tantram. It is not the relation among the word meanings alone that is the cause. Something more than that he adds. For that he says, if that alone were to be the criterion, then how are we to account for the knowledge which we arrive at from sentences such as, I can write it only in Sanskrit, of course, transliteration. It cannot be translated in English. Saindavam anaya means, the word Saindava is Nanarthaka Shabda. It has got two meanings. One is salt and the other is horse. Saindavam anaya. Suppose somebody says, bring Saindava. Now in this case, this word has got two meanings. Now what meaning will you fix up? How will you fix up the meaning? On the basis of context, isn't it? Suppose the king is ready to wage a war with his enemies and he asks Saindava Manaya, immediately nobody will bring a pocket of salt. He will bring only the horse. And you are right in front of the dining table and you ask Saindava Manaya, nobody will bring a horse. They will bring salt. So, based on the context, you fix the meaning of the word. Now, when the sentence Saindavam Anaya is uttered, the word Saindavam has got the capacity to convey both the meanings. But how do we determine the meaning of this word? On the basis of context, isn't it? Now, the samsarga for the word, the relation of both the meanings is present in the word Saindava. The word Saindava is related to this meaning as well as this meaning, isn't it? But if Padartha Samsargavatva were to serve as the criterion for understanding the sentential sense, then Anabhimata Samsarga, a Samsarga or a relation of a meaning which is not intended by the speaker, also have to be considered, and I must be perplexed, and I must be in a situation to fix up the meaning what is intended by the speaker. So Anabhimata Samsarga, because it means both horse and salt. On the other hand, I am perfectly able to determine the Samsarga which is intended by the speaker. How do I determine? Again, on the basis of context. So, we cannot frame the rule that Padartha Samsargavatvam Vakyartha Jnane Tantram. In order to arrive at the sentential sense, the relation among the word meanings is the criteria. We cannot fix it, because if that were to be so, Anabhimata Samsarga, the Samsarga which is not intended to be conveyed by the speaker, also may have to come within the range of sentential sense. So for this reason, we give up Anabhimata Samsarga. Then what? What should be taken as the criteria? It is only the Tatparya or the intent. That is why The later Nayayikas and also the Advaitins, they add Akanksha, Yogyata, Asakti and Tatparya. What are the causes leading to verbal cognition? Expectancy, Yogyata or compatibility among the words constituting a sentence, Asakti or juxtaposition, and Tatparya is very, very important. Although it is added later, it is very, very important. The intention of the speaker is very important in determining the sentential sense. And in ordinary parlance, that intention or tatparya is determined on the basis of context. And in determining the intention of the Shruti text, we have the Shadvida Tatparya Linga, which we explained in the morning, Upakrama Upasamhara, Abhyasa Vapurvatapalam, Arthavada Upapatti cha Lingam Tatparya Nirnayi. So now he fixes up that Vakyajanya Jnana Vishayatve Padartha Samsargavatvam na Tantram. Don't rest contented with Padartha Samsarga alone leading to sentential sense. If that alone were to be the criteria, then we will be at a loss to explain such cases like Saindavam Anaya, etc., where Anabhimata Samsarga, the relation of the meaning which is not intended by the speaker also may have to be manifested in the verbal cognition. So what do? We say that the tatparya or the intention of the speaker is the most important criteria in fixing up the or in arriving at the conclusion or arriving at the sentential sense. So now, what then in the case of, you have explained a contrary example. Now what happens in the case of Tattvamasi? We are very much worried about that only. So he says, there is Padartha Samsargatva, no doubt, but what is the Samsarga, what is the Padartha Samsarga, what is the intention of the teacher? In the case of Tattvamasi, he says, it is not the Padartha Samsarga that is intended to be conveyed by the teacher. On the other hand, Tattvamasi, when it is said, what is the Tatparya there? Akhandartatva. He wants to impart the knowledge of the partless ultimate by the word, by the sentence Tattvamasi. What is intended to be conveyed by the teacher to the taught disciple is only the meaning of the partless ultimate, Akhandartha. So that is, it is not the Padartha. He is least about, have you understood the meaning of the word you, that the Padartha Samsarga, all these questions are not put by the teacher to the disciple. He wants the disciple to, because he is a fit recipient. So immediately when it is said, you are that Brahman, you are that, then immediately the teacher, he wants to convey the fact that the partless, he wants to impart him the knowledge of the partless ultimate, that is Akhandartha. So when Tattvamasi Mahavakya is instructed, imparted, then immediately he has the knowledge, Aham Brahmasmi. So this Akhandartha, the knowledge of the meaning of the Akhandartha, the partless ultimate, that is the Tatparya. Now how have you determined this Tatparya? In the Sadvidya section, it has been repeated 9 times that this is the Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Tattvamasi Shvetaketu, Aitadatmyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi. So 9 times this statement has been repeated, and so that is the true import. Beginning with Sadeva Saumya idam agra asit and ending with Aitadatmyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma, Tattvamasi. So throughout it has been ascertained that this is the true import of the Upanishad, that it conveys the sense of partless ultimate. Dharmaraja says, Pratipadikartha, it is the just crude form without being, it is the attributeless principle, it is the Nirguna Brahman that is being conveyed throughout 9 times. So that is the Tatparya. So Padartha Samsargavatvam na Tantram. In order to understand the sentential sense, it is not the relation among the word meanings that is the most important criteria. On the other hand, what is intended to be conveyed by the speaker, that is most relevant and most important. And in the present case, Tattvamasi, what is being instructed is only the Akhandartha, or the knowledge of the partless ultimate, and that is being conveyed or imparted by the teacher to the disciple, and that is being known. So, Vakyajanya Jnanasya Padartha Samsargavatvam na Tantram, Kintu Tatparya Vishayatvam, he says. The intention or the intention of the speaker, that is more important. Now we pass on to the next. I think we have got half an hour more. We pass on to the next concept. Um, there is a prevalent view in Advaita that the Ishwara, who is the Antaryami, who is the indwelling spirit of all beings, he is referred to as the Sakshi or the witness. But Dharmaraja deviates from the traditional Advaita and he makes a twofold distinction of Jeeva Sakshi and Ishwara Sakshi. Now, what is meant by the concept of, what is meant by Sakshi? Sakshi means witness. So, the witness self. Behind the individual soul in every one of us, there is always a witness who is constantly watching you. Whether you do a heinous act or a good act, perform a good act, he is not at all bothered. He is just a witness. He will just be seeing, okay, you are performing this act. Okay, do. He will never partake of the characteristics of such an activity. He will be constantly watching you. In Panchadashi, Vidyaranya says, Nrityashala sthito deepaha prabhum sabhyamscha nartakim deepayed avisheshena tad abhavepi deepyate. Nrityashalo sthito deepaha. There is a light burning in the ranga, that is the theater. Nrityashala sthito deepaha. And what does it do? Prabhum sabhyamsa nartakim. The owner of the show is sitting there. It manifests the owner of the show. Prabhum sabhyam. The audience is there. It manifests the audience also. Prabhum sabhyamscha nartakim. It also manifests the dancer. Prabhum sabhyamscha nartakim. How does it do? Does it manifest the owner of the show because he is the owner in a bright manner? No. Or the dancer in a bright way? No. Or the audience are very important, so they should be manifest? No, not at all. Deepayed avisheshena. Without any distinction whatsoever. Deepayed avisheshena. And not only that, all of them leave the hall. Even then, it keeps burning. Deepayed avisheshena tad abhave api deepyate. In the absence of all these factors also, it keeps burning. Such is the state of Sakshi or the witness. The witness will always be constantly watching. In all the three states, he is the witness of all the three states: waking, swapna, dream state, and also the deep sleep state. So it is an eternal consciousness. He is always watching you. So such a consciousness, witness self, he is, where Dharmaraja makes a distinction as Jeeva Sakshi and Ishwara Sakshi. Now, before we understand the concept of Sakshi, we must have at least a little background of what is meant by Jeeva and Ishwara. Now, the usually the Advaitins, there are, at least broadly classified, there are two ways of understanding the concept of Jeeva and Ishwara. There are two theories, Pratibhimbavada and Avachedavada. Now, the first theory considers both Jeeva and Ishwara as reflected images of pure consciousness or Brahman in two different media. One is Maya. Professor RB was mentioning Maya and Avidya are substantially same only. So Maya, and the product of Maya is Antakarana or mind. So the pure consciousness or Brahman. This theory upholds that pure consciousness undergoes reflection in two different media, that is Maya, it is called Ishwara. And when it undergoes modification, when it undergoes reflection in mind, it is called Jeeva. So, since this theory holds that both Ishwara and Jeeva are reflected images of pure consciousness in Maya and mind respectively, we have sanction for this to say so from the Upanishadic. Karyopadir ayam Jeevaha, Karanopadir Ishwaraha. Karya means Antakarana, which is an effect of avidya. Karana is Maya, Karanopadir Ishwaraha. So on the basis of this Shruti text, we consider Ishwara to be a reflected image of pure consciousness in Maya and Jeeva as a reflected image of pure consciousness in mind. Since both Ishwara and Jeeva are reflected images of pure consciousness, this is termed Pratibhimbavada. Now what happens is, this Maya is possessed of two powers, Avarana Shakti, concealing face, and Vikshepa Shakti, projecting face. Now what happens in the case of Jeeva, both Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti of avidya are operative. Ultimately, the individual soul loses sight of its identity, because in the case of both Ishvara and Jeeva, there is an element of consciousness, isn't it? Jeeva is consciousness reflected in the mind, and Ishvara is consciousness reflected in Maya. So the element of consciousness is there in both Ishvara and Jeeva. But unfortunately, the Jeeva has totally lost sight of its identity with its true nature, namely the pure consciousness, because of its association with Maya. It thinks it to be a finite being, kinchignya or alpagnya, and it thinks it to be a karta, bhokta and pramata. Now, where from this evil has arisen in the individual soul? Yes. Who is the culprit? The mind is the culprit. Now, how could it happen? We usually give the analogy, a mirror reflects the face. And there is the reflected face inside the mirror. Now, my face now is a mere face, because there is no mirror in front of me. But when a mirror is brought in front of me, my face gets reflected in the mirror, and there is a, in relation to my original face, there is a reflected face inside the mirror. So now this is called bimba or the prototype, whereas this is a reflected face. This is pratibimba. Now what happens? The face, which was a mere face all along, in relation to a mirror, has now acquired the characteristics of being, this is bimba should go here. This is bimba mukha. It has now acquired the characteristics of being a prototype or bimba mukha. Now, mirror which is a reflecting media, suppose there is malinya or dust, it is a dusty mirror, then the reflected face also will be dusty. So in ordinary experience, we have seen that it is the nature of the reflecting medium, or the nature of the reflecting medium is such that it illegitimately transfers its characteristics upon the reflected image. So although the bimbamukha, the prototype, is very clear and bright, yet because of the malinya or the defect that is present in the mirror, the reflected face is somewhat dull. So the nature of the reflecting medium is such that it imparts its characteristics upon the reflected image. This we have seen in ordinary experience. Extending this line of argument in the case of the pure consciousness getting reflected in mind, what are the characteristics of mind? Kartrutva, agency; bhoktrutva, enjoyership; and pramatrutva. All these, which are the characteristics of mind, are being transferred to the individual soul or Jeeva. So the Jeeva in reality is not possessed. Jeeva, who is possessing the element of consciousness in it, because of its false association or identification with the mind, acquires the what are all present in the mind, all these characteristics. The Jeeva comes to be endowed with all such characteristics, and ultimately it is the Jeeva who is referred to as Karta, Bhokta and Pramata. Okay. Now, the mind being a product of Maya or Avidya, the two powers of Avidya also will be operative in the case of Jeeva. So, the Jeeva has totally forgotten its true nature. It is completely veiled by ignorance. So, he thinks it himself to be a finite being, as opposed to Ishwara. And not only that, Vikshepa Shakti also is projective in his case. The world is projected as real in the case of Jeeva. So, ahankarta, not only that, ahankarta, bhokta, ityadi, brahmajanana shakti, vikshepa shakti, he says. Brahmajana, it gives rise to the false notions that one who is not a karta, bhokta, pramata, he has the false notions that he is the agent, experient, enjoyer, etc., etc. So, both these shaktis are operative in the case of Jeeva, and ultimately the Jeeva is a transmigratory being. But what happens in the case of Ishwara? In the case of Ishwara, the Avarana Shakti is not operative because Ishwara is always aware of his identity with the true nature, namely pure consciousness. Whereas the Vikshepa Shakti is operative, so the world, because he thinks himself to be the creator of the world. So Vikshepa Shakti is operative in his case. So then in both these cases, what we see is the nature of the reflecting medium is falsely transferred to the reflected images. Now the question that is put here is, because the nature of the reflecting medium is to impose its characteristics upon the reflected image, will it not amount to the defect that both Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti will be operative in the case of Ishwara, and Ishwara will in no way be different from the finite being, namely the Jeeva. So there will be absolutely no distinction between Jeeva and Ishwara. So we have to give up this view of viewing Ishwara to be a reflected image of pure consciousness in Maya. Yeah, Brahmananda, who commented upon Madhusudana Saraswati's Siddhanta Biddu, he says, it is on the basis of the Upanishadic text that we have framed such a theory. Karyopadirayam Jivaha, Karanopadir Ishvara. But those who oppose this view, they say that it is in conflict with the Upanishadic texts which speak of omniscience in respect of Ishvara. Yes, Sarvajnaha Sarvavit, Yasya Jnanamayam Tapaha, Tasmad Etat Rupa Nama Rupa Mannancha Jayate. So the Upanishads speak of omniscience in respect of Ishvara. So if Ishvara is to be considered as a reflected image of pure consciousness in Maya, then both these Shaktis will be operative in the case of Ishvara, and Ishvara cannot be viewed as an omniscient entity. So it will be in conflict. If we subscribe to this view, we will be totally contradicting the Upanishadic text which speaks of omniscience in respect of Ishvara. So this is the main contention of those who give up this view. But Brahmananda says, this view has been framed on the basis of Upanishads. And there is another set of Upanishads which speaks of omniscience in respect of Ishvara. So if you want to protect that text which speaks of omniscience in respect of Ishvara, now what will be the status or what will be the scope And what will be the fate of this Upanishad, which speaks of Ishwara as a reflected image? So, there is some kind of reconciliation. This text speaks of Ishwara as a reflected image, and that speaks of, we have to accept or give validity to both the Upanishadic texts. So, let us consider, or let us take both the Upanishads to be valid. It says Ishwara to be a reflected image, and that Ishwara is spoken of as Sarvajna. So, on this ground, one need not give up this view at all, he says. That is a very Praudivada. But the followers of the Vivarana identify this difficulty, and hence they subscribe to the view called Bimba Pratibhimbavada. A refined view of Pratibhimbavada is Bimba Pratibhimbavada, in which case the pure consciousness, in the case of the face, let us have pure consciousness or Brahman. The pure consciousness undergoes reflection in Maya and mind. Now, the reflecting medium happens to be Maya and mind, and the reflected face is Jeeva. Now, pure consciousness remains as pure consciousness, and when it undergoes reflection in Maya and mind, it attains the status of Jeeva. Now, this prototype or Bimba, pure consciousness has now acquired the status of Bimba Chaitanya or prototype consciousness. This is called Ishwara, and this is Jeeva. So, in the view of Prakashatman, that is Vivaranakara, the pure consciousness as associated with Bimbatva, or the state of being a prototype, he is termed Ishwara, and the very same consciousness which is associated with the state of being a reflected image or Pratibimbatva is termed Jeeva. So, Bimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya is Ishwara, and Pratibimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya is Jeeva. So, according to him, he says, Tattvamasi Mahavakya, Tat refers to Bimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya, and Tvam refers to Pratibimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya. Now, what is to be stripped off from the two? Bimbatva and Pratibimbatva. Now, this mirror is taken away. The Upadhi, when it is taken away, what happens? There is only one, that is Bimba alone remains. The reflected image gets absorbed in the Bimba. One sun gets reflected in several Jalapatras. Now what happens? There are 10 reflected images. Now, what should be done? In order to make it one only, all the Jalapatras should be destroyed. So then you will not have any reflection at all. Now what happens? What happened to these reflected images? They have got absorbed in the Bimba. Bimba also we cannot say, there remains only one. You can have the usage that it is Bimba only in relation to a Pratibimba. Is it clear? So, now why I have dilated on this point, I just wanted you to understand the concept or the notion of Jeeva and Ishwara in Advaita Vedanta. There is one more view, and even within this view, there is one more view advocated by Sureshwaracharya, Abhasavada is there, and it discusses in detail, elaborately about the nature of the reflected image, whether reflection can take place at all, because pure consciousness is devoid of any color or form whatsoever. Reflections can be had only with regard to objects which are possessed of form and color. So all such discussions, we find lengthy discussions in all the Advaita texts. And there is Abhasavada, and one more view subscribed by Vachaspati Mishra is Avachedavada, theory of delimitation. Theory of delimitation. He says that even the main contention of Vachaspati Mishra is this, that Nirupasya Brahmanaha Pratibimbatvam Nasambhavati. Brahman cannot undergo reflection because it is devoid of any color. In ordinary experience, we have seen that an object possessed of color that alone could get reflected. Should I stop here? So, and not only that, in all cases of reflection, what happens is, suppose my face should get reflected in a mirror. What is the first condition? My face should be conditioned by the mirror first of all. It should get related to the mirror. My face cannot be just like that reflected in a mirror. There is no mirror at all. How can it get reflected? So, in all cases of reflection are preceded by what is known as condition. So, the face should get conditioned by the mirror, or the mirror should be just in front of me. Only then you can speak of reflection. So, since all cases of reflection necessarily are preceded by conditioning element, Vachaspiti Mishra thought that it is not necessary to explain it on the basis of reflection. We can do away with reflection. On the other hand, we can say that Brahman or pure, the Jeeva and Ishwara are conditioned entities of pure consciousness. Now, what conditioned by what? Just as the all-pervasive etheric space is conditioned by room, conditioned by pot, so ether conditioned by pot, ether conditioned by room. So in this way, the all-pervasive ether, we are able to make a distinction in the all-pervasive ether due to delimiting adjuncts. In the same way, the pure consciousness is being conditioned by the several minds in each and every body. It acquires the status of Jeeva. The unconditioned pure consciousness is called Ishwara. So, the consciousness conditioned by Maya is termed Ishwara. So, he says Maya avachinnam chaitanyam. The consciousness conditioned by Maya is Ishwara, and consciousness conditioned by mind is Jeeva. So, in this way, the Advaitins try to explain the nature of Jeeva and Ishwara. So, in this background, we have to understand the concept of Sakshi, that is, Jeeva is a pure consciousness. The individual soul is a pure consciousness. Whatever view you consider, whether it is Avachedavara or Pratibim, Avachedavada or Pratibimbavada, whatever be the case, whatever view you can subscribe, the Jeeva or the individual soul is a complex of the pure consciousness and mind, Maya, etc. So, consciousness which is related to Maya and mind is Jeeva, and consciousness that transcends or Upahita, that is Jeeva Sakshi. So, the operative part is this: pure consciousness associated with Maya and mind is Jeeva, and that which is transcends or not related to these two factors, that is termed Jeeva Sakshi. Now, how do you understand this concept? Give me some analogy, he says. He says, when Maya and mind serve as adjectives for the pure consciousness, then we call it as Ishwara. Then when these two factors serve as Upadhi, then the pure consciousness acquires the name Jeeva Sakshi. So, Anayoho Visheshanatva Upadhitvabhyam, by viewing mind and Maya to be the adjective, then the pure consciousness is termed Jeeva. When the same mind and Maya serve as Upadhi or adjuncts, delimiting or conditioning adjuncts, then the pure consciousness acquires the name Jeeva Sakshi. For that, the Advaitins, should I stop here? Or I will, so I will be able to complete this concept. Now, what is meant by this is adjectival feature is Visheshana, and this is Upadhi. Let us consider an example. Rupi Gataha Anityaha. The English translation of it is colored pot is non-eternal. Now, what is it that I want to convey by this sentence? What is the operative part? I want to say that pot is non-eternal. Pot is not nitya. It is non-eternal. It is subject to destruction. So, pot is non-eternal is what I want to mainly convey by this sentence. So, what is predicated of with reference to pot? Pot is the subject, and what is predicated of with reference to pot is non-eternity or anityatva. So, in Sanskrit, if we want to say ghatam uddishya anityatvam vidiyate, with reference to pot, I want to predicate of with reference to pot anityatva or non-eternity. Now, what is the fate of this color? The meaning of the sentence is pot is non-eternal. What happens to this color? It is just the visheshana for pot. Is it clear? So, when I mean to say that pot is non-eternal, I cannot give up or I cannot neglect this element of color that is present in pot. So, what is predicated of with reference to pot, namely non-eternity, has got relation even to the color. I cannot neglect or omit this color. When I say colored pot is non-eternal, does not this color have relation to what is being predicated of with reference to pot? Yes. Because when I say pot is non-eternal, it's not the pot alone that is spoken of as non-eternal, but also the color which is related to the pot. So, the color here is an adjective. Now, what is the nature of the adjective? Karya anvayi. Vyavartakaha visheshanam. This is the definition he gives. What is an adjective element here? Karya anvayi. Karya means not effect. What is predicated of? Videya. It means videya. What is predicated of with reference to pot? That is termed by karya. Non-eternity is the karya. So, it is the visheshana. It has got anvaya or relation to what is being predicated of with reference to pot, and not only that, it is a vyavartaka or distinguishing feature. This color, red color, which is present in the pot, distinguishes this pot from the rest of the objects, and not only the rest of the objects, rest of the other color pots. So, the role of a visheshana or adjectival element is that what is predicated of with reference to a particular object, it will have relation to that predication, and not only that, it serves as a distinguishing feature of that element, that object from all the other objects. So, color is termed visheshana. Now, exactly similar consideration applies to the case of pure consciousness associated with Maya and mind. Now here, Maya and mind are the adjectives to pure consciousness. Now, pure consciousness associated with Maya and mind is termed Jeeva, isn't it? Now, Antakarana Vishishta Chaitanya, the Chaitanya or the pure consciousness as associated with Maya and mind, with reference to this, what is predicated of is Jeevahood or Jeevatva. the state of being an individual soul. Just as non-eternity is predicated of with reference to part, colored part, in the same way with reference to pure consciousness, jivatva or jivahood is postulated. And how is that consciousness? Associated with Maya and mind. This color or Maya and mind takes the place of the color. So now, when you predicate jivatva with reference to pure consciousness, it is not with reference to pure consciousness alone you predicate of jivatva, but what is predicated of, namely jivatva, has got relation to Maya and mind too. So, when this Maya and mind serve as Visheshana or adjectival feature to the pure consciousness, then it is called Jeeva. So, when the same Maya and mind serve as Upadhis, it will acquire the name Jeeva Sakshi. How it acquires the name Jeeva Sakshi, we will see in the next class.